So the next chapter is about global information systems and market research. Okay, so first, a couple of terms. Information technology, or IT, is the full system of an organization around creating, storing, exchanging, using, and managing information. So it's a pretty wide area. It involves both the hardware and software needed to manage all information in a business. Then we have the management information system. So these are the means for gathering, analyzing, and reporting relevant data to provide managers and other decision makers with a continuous flow of information about markets, customers, competitors, and company operators. We also have the term big data. So big data are extremely large data sets that can be subjected to computational analysis to reveal patterns and trends. Business Intelligence Network is a component of the MIC, and the major objective of the Business Intelligence Network is to enable interactive access to data, enable manipulation of this data, and also to provide managers and analysts with the ability to conduct appropriate analysis. So this is very crucial for any business today, because we are working in an environment with, like, due to technology, due to the latest development of internet, there's a lot of data that is available that needs to be processed, analyzed, understood, so that we can make informed and better decisions. As far as the IT infrastructure, we have a couple of here more terms. So intranet, this is the private network that allows insiders or outsiders to share information securely and without paper. In simple terms, intranet is the internet inside the company, and maybe the company and its suppliers. So it's like involves a lot of different ways to communicate, share files, maybe electronic boards with information, and a lot of other things. Everything else you have on internet can be replicated here. There's also the term real-time enterprises. So these are companies such as Google, Amazon, FedEx that leverage big data. So basically they're on a daily level working with astronomical amount of information which needs to be processed in order for them to function. Electronic data interchange systems are systems that allow computer systems to speak the same language. So this has become more and more important in today's world, because in the past, a company, like imagine a big company, would implement a system inside the company, but then it cannot speak with its suppliers. So as a result, data needs to be entered manually from one system to another. Today, through the EDI, we're actually enabling computer systems to speak the same language. So in this way, we can connect with a lot of different people, different stakeholders, and different elements of our supply chain can be all organized in computer systems and communicating effectively. The ECR is the efficient consumer response. This is a joint initiative of supply chain members to optimize supply chain to benefit customers. And we also have the term electronic point of sale. This is basically the data which is read on checkout scanner. So when we are in a shop, these barcodes which are being scanned are actually these barcodes are not just used for the cash registers, but they are the code with which goods and parts of goods are moving throughout the company's information system. So this helps to identify sales patterns and geographical consumer preferences, but also barcodes are used in a very effective way to monitor the movement. So a big company knows at any given moment what is in storage, what is in production, what is at points of sale. So it's very easy to manage information.
Sorry for the interruption. It
Yes.
seems like we still can see the case book. We haven't seen the slide yet.
Aha, I'm sorry about that. Thank you for telling me. I will stop share and then start again because it probably didn't switch. Okay, so now it should be okay. Do you see it now?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you for
Thank you.
telling me. Thank you. Okay, so this is the last point of IT infrastructure. So this is about the CRM. So the CRM system has become a very important system in any big company today. This is a system that manages all the relationship with customers. It's called customer relationship management. And it basically contains the full information for our customers, the full information on all interactions and everything happening with our customers. So it's also kind of a philosophy that values two-way communication between the company and the customer. And it really allows a 360-degree view of the customer. Before we had these systems, we would lose information. So it can happen that, I don't know, two different departments in the business are communicating with the same company and we wouldn't know. With an effective CRM system, this is not possible because at any given moment, we know everything we've ever done with this customer. Okay, so the next aspect here we will be focusing on is sources of market information. What's interesting is that as much as 2/3 of corporate information actually comes from personal sources. So executive based abroad, company subsidiaries, affiliates, branches, all the elements of the company are actually communicating with people across our supply chain, with consumers, with government. So a lot of the information actually comes exactly from these sources. And in a company which has good organization, this information is not lost, but it's really used in the best possible way. So they're saying here that domestic companies often miss the opportunity to look outside their home country, so they may miss new opportunities and trends. So in other words, there's a lot of information available, and we need to make sure we utilize it properly. According to the CMO of Procter & Gamble, Jim Stengel, direct sensory perception. So this is the direct information we get from perceiving the customer. So it's called here seeing, feeling, hearing, smelling, or tasting firsthand to find out what's going on in a country. Is the best way to do things. So we don't just read about it. We have to be experiential. So we need to go and try things. And Jim Stengel says some of the best ideas are coming from people getting out there and experiencing and listening. So it's not enough just to sit on the computer, read about the other country and say, oh, people in that country like this and that. It's a completely different thing if we go there and we really expose ourselves to the local culture and experience it and experiment. So a formal marketing research consists of several different stages. It starts with setting up the firm objectives. Then there's a whole bunch of information requirements that we need to set, and we need to understand and set our market orientation, strategic orientation, and problem orientation. Out of that comes the problem definition. In the problem definition, we need to be very much aware of our self-reference criterion. I'm going to speak in a little bit about that. We also need to choose unit of analysis. It's very wrong to think that we can just, for example, if we're a global company, we can speak in general. Things are different by countries, by regions, by different ways, combination of regions. So we need to be very clear, where are we, who are we targeting where. When we do market research, the first task is to find, can we find secondary data? Is there already data available that we can use? With secondary data, the problem is we need to be, I mean, it's usually easier available, it's cheaper to collect, but we need also to be aware that whoever has collected it for their purposes. So sometimes the secondary data might not be optimal for our use. But in any case, it's a good practice to always start with what's already available out there. It's also called desktop research, because we can find a lot of data just sitting on our computer. The next stage here is assess value of research. We can do cost-benefit analysis. We then need to research, to design our research. So here we're going into primary research. So in other words, we're preparing to collect data directly from the market. The next stage is data analysis. So how can we interpret the data we found, and how can we make sense of it? So there's a number of analyses we can use, and then interpretation and presentation. So here we're going to go into details of some of the aspects. So these are examples of what information we may collect. So market potential, this is information about demand, consumer behavior, product channels, and so on. Competitors, the exchange market, the regulatory environment, availability of resources. So these are all areas in which we need information. When we're defining the problem, it's very, this is the self-reference criterion I mentioned. So we need to be aware that we perceive the world from our point of view, from our cultural upbringing, from our understanding of what's proper and what's not proper. So basically we never have a full picture. We're always looking with the restrictions of our own biases. And this could be very, very, very expensive mistake. For example, Disney's first attempt to open Disneyland in Paris was a complete disaster. They had to close and afterwards reopened after quite a while, already successful. But the first attempt, this was millions wasted, was actually a disaster, exactly because of not understanding the local culture. So step 3, we discussed this. So here we're giving you certain resources also of where can we find secondary data. So in addition to things like competitors' websites and social media and so on, there are also specific bodies which are publishing reliable information, like statistical offices, different bureaus for analysis, different organizations. So you have here a few of these examples, but There's a lot more actually available, and depending on what our business is, we can also find industry-specific information. In today's world, we have to be very careful. Where do we get information from? Because the fact that it's out there and somebody published it doesn't mean it's true. Yes, so if secondary data is not available or is not sufficient, then we would conduct further research. So it's very important to assess the cost of the research versus what the information is worth. We also should ask ourselves questions like, would we enter without doing research? Are we confident in what we're doing? And we would just, because the whole idea of research also is, if you are not planning to adapt your products and to adapt your strategy to the local market, then researching certain details might not do you no good. So it's very important to understand what our objectives are and what we're striving to achieve, and then really assess the cost of the research versus the worthiness for us for this specific business situation of the information. Okay, then as far as the research design, this is already the moment when we collect primary data. So we are actually designing questionnaires or other ways of collecting primary data, and we're going directly to the customers, potential customers, or I mean, of course, not to all of them, but to a segment from them to collect the data we need. In general, secondary data is considered to be also data that our competitors can get. So anytime when we want to really find something about the needs of the customers or about their behaviors, this can turn into, through primary research, when we find some specific, this can turn into competitive advantage, because unlike secondary data, primary data will be something only we possess. If we do it smart, we can end up really understanding something specific that can be the difference between success and failure. Of course, it's not so easy to collect data. It costs money. It takes time to gather the data. We also need to be to have the knowledge inside the company of how this is done. Of course, we can also outsource this work and use the specialized market research agency. It's in general a good practice to use multiple indicators rather than a single measure. So individual companies should develop customized indicators specific to the industry, product, market, or business model. In other words, we need to really understand what are we researching, why are we researching it, and what is it exactly we want to find out. It's always good also to conduct comparative assessments. What this means is we can do one research, find certain, have certain findings, and then build up a whole strategy around that finding. But it could happen that there were some deviations in that case. Something was not precise. So obviously it's not a good business practice to completely base everything on one potentially wrong data. So that's why we're saying here it's better to conduct comparative assessments so that we can see the same factor from different angles and make sure that the data we use is really the correct information on which we can base our strategy. It's important also to observe purchasing patterns, other behaviors, and this should have bigger weight on our conclusions rather than reports or opinions about purchase intentions or price sensitivity. For example, it's more important. Let's say we we go in certain market and we ask people, what cars do you like? And let's say 60% of them say we think German cars have superior quality. Let's assume. There's a difference between that information and then going and seeing how many German cars were sold last year compared to, for example, Japanese. So there's a difference between what people think they're gonna do and what they have really done, right? So we have to be really careful when we make conclusions here. And this is also the difference between qualitative and quantitative research. So qualitative research is about the beliefs, about the values of the consumer. So what do they believe in and what they value? While quantitative is specifically about statistics. So qualitative is very important because it provides us, gets us closer to the consumer. It helps us really understand what they like and dislike. It allows us, we're saying here, to identify core brand equity and really get under the skin. And it's a way also to really mind the consumer and identify what people really feel. The problem with qualitative research is it takes more time, it's more difficult to conduct, it's more open to interpretation. It's also open to mistakes based on our own biases and our own way of framing things, but nevertheless, it's an important part of the process. So when we are going for market research and deciding to do data collection, we again faced with the same question we discussed last week, which is standardization versus extension of marketing mix. So we need to understand what is the proper strategy and like adjust what data we're collecting depending on that strategy. Demand and profit potential could depend on whether market is existing or potential. For example, when Apple created for the first time the Apple, like the whole introduction of the smartphone, they couldn't go and ask people in different countries, like, would you like a phone with one button, or would you like cameras on your phone? Most people would have said, I don't know, why would I need a camera on my phone? Because that wasn't part of our habits. We used to have cameras separate from our phones. Phone was only a device for calling. Steve Jobs had the vision that we can have a computer in our pocket, but we as customers we didn't, in a simple interview, like a simple market research questionnaire, if we were just asked these questions, most people would have probably said, why are you bothering me? Like, what are you talking about? Because we didn't have the vision he's having. Maybe some people would have said, interesting, yes, I would love that. But most people would have completely disregarded it, according to me. So in other words, we need to be careful when we ask questions, because we can end up saying, oh, people don't want to have a camera on their phone, right? This could end up to be the result of our market survey, and it would have been wrong. So we need a completely different approach when we are estimating the potential of a new market versus an existing market. When we talk about potential market, that market can be latent. So in other words, it's a completely undiscovered segment, or it could be incipient, a market which will emerge if if an economic, demographic, political, or social, cultural trend continues. So I already mentioned, as far as methodology, we have the qualitative or quantitative method. And we can also use back or parallel translation technique to ensure accuracy. Sorry. What this means is when we are translating surveys in other languages, we can make some big mistakes actually. So by translating it back and forth, we can see mistakes, language mistakes. I've personally done that and it's pretty amazing. So if you translate it to another language and then backwards, you can see the words that are really popping up that can create misunderstanding. There are some things that are clearly easily translatable and other words which could be messy, misunderstood, and so on. In addition to questionnaires, we can also use consumer panels. So with consumer panels, they could be just people we gather for a while and we have detailed conversations with them, or it could be about tracking their behavior over time. For example, Nielsen Media tracks television audience, what they watch, when do they watch what, and so on. Another methodology is observation, focus groups, scale development. Yeah, so actually, sorry, I went too fast. So focus groups is when we, so observation is about observing and watching and recording actual behavior of actual customers or potential customers. So this could be really useful in some cases because we want to see how is the consumer interacting with our product, for example. This is done a lot also with things like applications. So it's very valuable to see how is the consumer using the application. Where are they clicking? What are they doing? So this can give us really a lot of information. Or what is the consumer doing entering a shop? What attracts them? Where does their attention go? This is done also on websites. Like where do they click? Where do they go afterwards? When focus groups are about small groups of people where through discussion, so this is more qualitative research again, through discussion we can understand more about certain aspects of our target customers. As far as scale development, this refers to what scale we use. So there's Likert scale is one famous scale, but in general, what we need to be aware here is, for example, the scale could be between 1 and 5 of people answering, or between 0 and 10, for example, or 1 and 10. We need to be aware of different cultural differences because some people may perceive, maybe we designed the survey that 5 is the top mark and 5 means superior. But other people can interpret that 1 means number 1. So I'm putting on first place. So the best answer is number 1, not 5. So we need to be very clear, both for technical mistakes, but not technical mistakes, but misunderstandings, but also for cultural differences. Another big topic in research is sampling. So we cannot ask everybody from the target group. Obviously, that's impossible. But who do we ask? And how do we make sure that the people we ask are the relevant people? Because we can go on the street or on internet for that matter, and we can say we need 100 surveys, and the first 100 people filling in the survey, we collect the data from the first 100. But maybe it happened with this first 100 where, I don't know, for example, all were young people up to, let's say, 25 years old. And we didn't have any older people. And actually our product is for different age range. So there's a whole science around how to do sample. So the whole, there are different ways to do it, but it's important to both consider relevancy of data, but also when make it convenient. Another big time-consuming moment is the data analysis. So the data we collect needs to be clean, tabulated. Basically, we need to do a lot of different types of analysis. And here, a lot of mistakes can also happen because as we analyze the data, we also need to be aware of our own ways of interpretation. So again, we need to properly prepare for this part. And the last step in general is interpretation and presentation. So this is the moment when we are going now to communicate what we have collected to other people in the company. So it's very important. Usually, if we're the one doing the market research, we use a lot of technical terms, a lot of things that require experience, knowledge, education in market research, terminology, methodologies, and so on. But we need to understand that if we present the data and use all this professional expert language, we might not be able to reach the people who actually have to take decisions. So they are not as they may not be as comfortable as us in some of the specific expert language. So in general, it's considered a good practice that the data then needs to be interpreted and presented in a way that it could be understood by anybody in the business, and they can understand how this data impacts the business. So part of this requires simplifying complex quantitative analysis to real simple messages. Now, again, here the problem is, by simplifying, we can also lose certain details that are important. So it's about balancing simplification with also attention not to lose important information, which maybe can completely change the opinion of managers and their strategy. So what are the current issues in global marketing research? So one of the issues is where to locate control of the firm's research. So who takes decisions? Who makes it happen? We also need to ensure that when we are comparing data, so if we're a global company and we have a whole project to collect certain data across the world, and then we're presenting data we have found for different countries, we need to ensure that we're making valid comparison between countries. For example, one of the typical cases is comparing income. So for example, a monthly wage of $1,000 in India is one thing, and it can mean completely different thing in Switzerland or in Africa, for example, somewhere. So there are ways of ensuring that we can redo the data in a way that it effectively makes comparison between countries, because it's much more interesting what can this $1,000 buy me? What kind of life standard is this supplying to me, rather than comparing the dollars themselves. We also have the so-called emic analysis, which approach which studies the culture from within, and ethic analysis, which is detached and used in multi-country studies. So basically, as we approach this, we need to make decision. Are we doing the analysis, for example, with a team which is based in that culture and understands it, or are we doing from an external perspective? Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing now. So, but what about Nestle? Has anybody of you read that case?
Just read of it roughly during the 5 minutes break.
Okay, so it's yeah, it's a rough read. Yeah. Did anything interesting? Did you read something interesting that you want to share?
I guess it's like starting from that Nestle, there was in the market in the Middle East that it's a place or location that they have so many cultures. And that's why it's like a big homework for the Nestle that they had to find the best optimum point that like which one is very suitable for the market because they have so many cultures there. And yeah, that's why they try to do it more. And for example, they also have a project about that they try to get rid of the packaging that they can do just only single time, like a recycle, how to say, the reusable or the recyclable. And also the next one is also that the Nestle, they went to the Egypt, and then they also would like to, how to say, make it in the strong point that they would like to be a bit kind of the healthy. So they also launched the project about the healthy kids, and also to educate the people to know and understand also what is the healthy kids and what is important for the kids, or for at the same time they also would like to study and make the research as well, what is the needs of the customers or consumers about the nutrition project or something like that, so they can do it properly in the way that they can do it. Something like that, because they know that like the people also looking for the product, the premium goods or premium product that they can accessible or affordable as well at the same time.
Yes, very good, very good. So indeed, these are the main points of the case study, and it's a really, really good example of a company that understands. First of all, we're in the food business, so food, we discussed, I think last time, is one of the areas where we need to adapt much more to the cultural tastes of people. It's not like selling a computer. Computers in general are not adapted to local tastes, but food, this is part of our national identity. It's a part of our religion. It's part also of our health habits, because health is also related to things like local climate. So the case demonstrates how good we understand this. So we've invested incredible amount of money in doing local research to understand local tastes and basically to adapt all their products to the local market. And you mentioned something very important. These markets are very, especially, for example, if we look at Dubai, it's a very multicultural market. It's full of many nationalities there. So how do you cater to so many different people? So it's not just about understanding the local market, because I think last time we discussed one case for Dubai. I think, if I remember correctly, it was 95% of people were expats, or if it's not, if I'm not precise with the number, something similar. So in other words, majority of people are coming from all kinds of other cultures with all their traditions, with all their needs. So it's a very smart, actually, policy to invest as much as they do in research and to actually adapt their products to local tastes. And the other point you made also is very important, this focus on health. So it's actually very smart, because lately many people around the world are getting very health conscious, and we don't associate corporate products always like with health. Like, in other words, always packaged food and prefabricated, like things which industrially prepared. There's a tendency of people trying to go to more natural food. So this focus on, we saw that with McDonald's also. So McDonald's didn't have salads until recently. So this new renewed sense of the importance of health and the information which is available on health makes customers much more health conscious. So by Nestle adapting to that, and actually not just adapting, but they are leading in that area, they guarantee themselves kind of a bright future as a corporation. There's also a good example here. I'm not sure if I'll find it now in the text, but they had a cooperation. Yes, so they entered in South Africa, for example. They entered into collaboration with the South African government's Department for Science and Technology, allowing scientists to explore and make extensive use of Nestle's research capabilities and expertise in nutrition, food science, and food safety. So they not only invest in research and development, but they allow local scientists to use their resources. And so out of this collaboration, then we can see advancement in the area of health. They're also discovering new bioactive ingredients. So in general, biodiversity is also a subject that is being discussed lately and is of great importance for our health. So this is a great example of how a big corporation is actually having a very smart positioning model. So how they're positioning themselves in these new markets. So with so much work done towards health and adaptation to local tastes, they're positioning themselves as authority of health. In many developed countries, we associate products of such companies with junk food, for example. So it's completely the opposite. And this could really provide them long-term success as a company. And it's also a great example. I recommend reading it because it's a great example of how we adapt, how we use market research and how we adapt it to the different customer segments. They have also other things for kids and so on.